A very good evening to you all and welcome to English News Bulletin here on Rwanda Television. I believe you had a good start of the week. We'll begin the edition with the top stories. President Paul Kagame highlighted that Africa's future, particularly matters of peace and security, cannot be outsourced, pointing out that it has been far too long treated as a burden to be managed by others. The second group of over 700 Rwandans who had been held hostage by the FDLR has returned to Rwanda. Now on the international scene in Nigeria, around 200,000 people have been displaced following a terrorist attack that struck Borno State in the northern eastern part of the country over the past weekend. My name is Olive Nathan. It's always a pleasure to have you on board. Now let's kick off today's edition. President Paul Kagame highlighted that Africa's future, particularly matters of peace and security, cannot be outsourced, pointing out that it has been far too long treated as a burden to be managed by others. He reiterated this at the official opening of the International Security Conference on Africa being held here in Kigali. Adam Squizera has the details.
The main point discussed by participants at the conference was the need to preserve security on the African continent. Delegates highlighted persistent gaps such as terrorism, cyber attacks, and transnational crimes that continue to evolve rapidly. The chairperson of the ISCA Advisory Council, Musa Faki Mahama, stressed that Africa's security should be built on preventive measures rather than responding to the consequences of instability.
For far too long, our continent has felt the need for a permanent strategic space dedicated to in-depth reflection and ongoing dialogue on peace and security issues. At a time when systems of governance are faltering under the weight of widespread instability and growing uncertainty, Africa must be able to rely on a platform rooted in its own realities, responsive to its specificities, and driven by a shared ambition.
President Paul Kagame noted that continent's peace and security have been managed by others with minimal inputs from Africans and often without the benefit of the people's context or consent.
For far too long, our security has been treated as a burden to be managed by others, with minimal input from us and often without the benefit of our context or consent. This approach has failed to deliver both for Africa and for the world. What begins here is more than a conference. It is a deliberate effort to change both the narrative and the substance of how Africa engages with the global security debates.
The head of state also reiterated on the link between governance and security, underscoring that empowering citizens to enjoy their rights and dignity contributes to a more secure and stable society.
Security is not just about the absence of threats. Our job as leaders is to create an environment where people can live with dignity, enjoy their rights, and look to the future with hope and confidence.
The head of state further reminded participants that interstate cooperation is critical in shielding Africa from the threats that could destabilize its peace and development.
Even with the best domestic systems in place, No country today can secure itself in isolation. None. Borderless threats like pandemics, terrorism, and cybercrime evolve very quickly, often faster than national responses. But cooperation must go beyond merely sharing information.
President Kagame also visited the ISCA exhibition, which features 17 companies from 10 different countries across the world, showcasing defense and security solutions. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Still on this ongoing conference, the Secretary General of the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, Louise Mushikiwabo, held a conversation with Nathalie de la Palme, the CEO of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, focusing on strategies to enhance Africa's capacity to assert its voice on the global stage. Louise Mushikiwabo emphasized that Africans must take the charge of their own development and seek homegrown solutions to the challenges affecting them, such as security and climate change. She highlighted that the world is facing shared challenges that require inclusive solutions and that Africa should play a role in shaping and contributing to those solutions.
As Africans, we need to internalize the fact that our part is the most important. It's true, the world has shared challenges that require solutions in which Africa must participate. Even beyond security, climate change, issues for the future. So there's no doubt about that. And for many reasons, including some that's been mentioned by previous panelists before lunch, there's work to do on Africa's side, same for everyone else, the rest of the world.
In the same conversation, Louise Mushikiwabo questioned why Western countries often scrutinize Africa's cooperation with certain states they themselves disapprove of due to various issues.
Mr. Gao spoke about the dichotomy, United States, China, and the question which is recurrent, put to African leaders, which is if Africa cooperates with China or the United States. I don't see anybody asking the same question to European leaders. So why does Africa has to align with one or another country, no matter how powerful they are, and not rather find its own way with, why not, various partners? So Africa is actually a continent, not a country. It's a continent which is very diverse. Cultural diversity, geographical diversity, political, economic. But overall, it's a powerful bloc. It's a group of countries that has a lot to bring to the table to those countries and the rest of the world.
Still on the International Security Conference on Africa, discussions also included Africa's most pressing security issues, from terrorism and cyber threats to political instability and transnational crime, with a focus on collaboration, innovation and actionable solutions. ISCA 2025 sets the stage for shaping a more secure and stable future for the continent. Ms. Clotilde Mbaraga Gasarabge, the chairperson of the ISCA board, shared her point of view on the role of women in security.
I just saw that definitely a lot of investment in women, a lot of investment in women, by the way, in community level and policy-making level. And Rwanda is a good example. But in the same time, also have the contingents, the police forces, women. When they're in charge, I'm telling you, there is a lot of advantage when people benefit from that. And I have seen it in Liberia, in South Sudan, in many places. They have really, admired that, existence of Rwandese forces where they are well appreciated. I'm telling you, they are really well appreciated. So this is also something to be proud of. But also I think sharing experience, what went through, but also we overcome those challenges and exchange with others is also an honor for Rwanda, is also something we have to be proud of.
Now moving ahead to other matters in local news, the second group of over 700 Rwandans who had been held hostage by the FDLR has returned to Rwanda. They joined more than 300 others who were repatriated at the end of last week. They are currently sheltered at the temporary Kijote camp, where they said they were warmly welcomed, contrary to the threats they had heard that they would be killed upon return. Let's take a look at the details. The United Nations Refugee Agency facilitated the return of this second group of repatriated Rwandans through the main border between Rubavu and Goma, known as La Corniche. Among the 796 returnees, mostly women and children, many spoke about the circumstances that had kept them in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
It was so hard to even mention the words going home. You would only hope that one day you might. Because if you said it loud, they might kill you. You wouldn't dare to speak those words.
This second group of returnees arrived to join the first group that came last Saturday and is currently sheltered at the temporary Kijote camp. Rwanda's Minister of Emergency Management, retired Major General Albert Murasira, visited the Kijote camp. The returnees expressed gratitude for the warm reception they received, which was very different from the negative rumors they have previously been told.
We have arrived in our country, and based on the information we had before, we thought it wouldn't be possible to return. But upon arriving, we were warmly welcomed, and the country appears to be secure. We have found that Rwanda has developed significantly. It feels like we have missed out a lot.
When we compare what they used to tell us to what we've seen now, it is clear that everything they said was a lie. They told us that if we ever returned to Rwanda, we would be killed immediately and that there was no food in the country. But now, seeing things ourselves and experiencing how warmly we were received, we can see that Rwanda is very safe. They lied to us just to keep us from coming back to our country. Retired Major General Albert Murasira warmly welcomed the returnees and reassured them that Rwanda offers numerous opportunities to help them rebuild their lives.
We assist them by providing essential supplies to support their families. They also receive a small amount of money to help them during their first few days. Additionally, in collaboration with Minalok, we help those who do not remember their places of origin and work to support them most vulnerable among them.
The second group of returnees was relocated today to the temporary camp in Nyarushishi in Rusizi district. It is anticipated that more than 2,000 Rwandans who were held hostage by the FDLR will eventually be repatriated. Moving ahead to other matters, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Gambia, Hassan Boubacar Jallow, commended the progress Rwanda has made in the justice sector over the past 31 years since the genocide against the Tutsi was stopped, stating that it was not easy for genocide survivors to achieve justice at such a commendable level. He made these remarks during a courtesy visit with his Rwandan counterpart, the Chief Justice Donatille Mukantaganzwa, on Monday afternoon. Justice Hassan Boubacar Jallow, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Gambia, previously served as the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, from 2003 to 2016. He is in Rwanda for a 4-day official visit, and he commends the efforts the government of Rwanda has put into establishing a strong and resilient justice system in the aftermath of the genocide against the Tutsi.
I think there's been remarkable success in bringing to account those who are responsible for it. And I think the international community, in partnership with the government and the people of Rwanda, have made notable successes there in bringing to account, prosecuting those who played a leading role in the genocide in Rwanda. The ICTR did its part, what it could. The Rwandan legal system, of course, has done most of the work, and other countries in the rest of the world did a bit of it also in supporting Rwanda. Overall, I think it's been a success story in justice, bringing justice to the victims and the survivors of the genocide. The important thing, of course, is to make sure that we don't have a repeat of this kind of tragedy, neither here nor anywhere else in the world. And the international community needs to give concrete effect to ensuring that we are all each other's keepers worldwide, and that we prevent these tragedies from recurring.
Now, part Rwanda's Chief Justice Honorable Domitille Mukanaganzwa highlighted that such experience-sharing initiatives between the two countries significantly contribute to finding homegrown solutions for the people of the continent, especially in the area of justice.
Abanyafrika duhuza umuco, Abanyafrika duhuje amateka.
Africans, we share culture, we share history, we share a vision. Even though we may want the same things, and even though we share cultural values, we are not all at the same level of development. That is why we must learn from one another, because this mutual learning will help us build the Africa we want, an Africa with a united vision, an Africa that prioritizes the well-being of its people, rather than looking outward to so-called developed or advanced nations that expect us to imitate them, even though we do not share the same history or context. It is vital for us as Africans to learn from each other, and even when it seems like there is nothing new to learn, we can still come together to think, innovate, and develop ideas that can benefit our countries.
Tugafatanya gutekereza icyo twumvikanyeho akaba ari cyo dukurikiza mu bihugu byacu.
And during his visit, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Gambia, Hassan Boubacar Jallow, is expected to tour a center that offers alternative dispute resolution services outside of the formal court system, where he will be shown how it operates. He will also visit a law school where he will engage in discussions with some Gambian students currently studying in Rwanda. To Rwanda's financial sector, the Parliament has approved the draft law governing the management of securities, financial agreements and collateral agreements. This draft law is expected to facilitate investment in the sector and improve the framework for the storage and management of securities. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Yusuf Murangwa, explained that the law aims to simplify the process of managing, storing and overseeing securities.
We brought a proposal, a law proposal, to the Parliament regarding a review of the laws that govern securities in Rwanda, where we are proposing that the regulations that govern the financial markets and securities in Rwanda be split to separate conflict of interest of issuing financial securities, but also regulations, where the Central Bank of Rwanda was doing both. But going forward, we are proposing that in terms of regulations to be done by the Capital Markets Authority, but also to allow international financial institutions to be able to invest in Rwanda in terms of issuing share certificates and financial securities in Rwanda. For the moment, it was only the Central Bank of Rwanda that has been doing that, but going forward, in the spirit of allowing Kigali to be an international financial center, other global financial institutions will also be allowed to operate in Rwanda. The main impact is it will allow international investors in finance to be able to operate in Rwanda's stock markets, to provide more financial resources to the country. So it's very instrumental to allow Kigali to advance and prosper in terms of financial services.
Rwanda's education sector. On Monday, the Ministry of Education officially launched the 2025 National Practical Examinations for Technical and Vocational Education and Training students and it started at Esa, Nyarugunga in Chichiro district. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Irere Claudette, called on students to stay composed and remember that the marks they obtain will contribute significantly to the diploma they will be awarded upon completion of their secondary education. This year, a total of 66,958 candidates across the country are participating in the practical exams, which run from May 19th to June 6, 2025. These hands-on assessments are a key component of Rwanda's competency-based TVET curriculum and aim to evaluate the technical skills and real-world readiness of graduating students in various trades and professional fields. The minister emphasized the critical role of practical skills in driving innovation, entrepreneurship, and employment among the youth and reaffirmed the government's continued investment in strengthening TVET education to meet national development goals. To more news, local entrepreneurs in the ICT sector are calling for greater access to government tenders instead of favoring foreign companies. They believe this will enable them to grow, expand to international markets, and contribute meaningfully to the country's development goals. Enora Gladys has the report.
During a meeting that brought together ICT service providers and the Rwanda Public Procurement Authority, RPPA, as well as the Private Sector Federation, PSF, a key issue raised was how Rwandan companies can be given more opportunities in government procurement. Participants in the meeting suggested that when foreign companies are awarded tenders, they should be required to partner with local companies in order to support domestic capacity building.
What should be done is to make sure that there are joint ventures, or there are a certain percentage of the work to be done being done in Rwanda. Well, you can say, if it's a system which is not available in Rwanda, or it's just outside an outside company, at least to make sure that 30% of the work is done by a local company, so that you can build local experience in that domain as well.
So what we're asking for is equal opportunity, fair competition, to be able to service government institutions as well, and to be given policies that foster competition. That's the main challenge we have as an internet service provider, and for us to grow is to grow within Rwanda before we can think of expansion. We earlier touched on are we competitive? We've proven our capability of providing internet service with good quality because we are already servicing businesses in Rwanda.
The aim during the NST2 period is to significantly boost the national savings rate, increasing it from 12.4% of GDP in 2023 to 25.9% by 2029, considering that over 70% of private investment is expected to be sourced from the domestic financial sector. Francine Gataraiha, the program manager of the e-procurement project Umucho, noted that there are many opportunities available for local ICT companies, including small enterprises. She advised entrepreneurs in this sector to identify areas where they can request facilitation, just as has been done for other sectors.
Yeah, Rwandan francs. They didn't want any foreign company to participate in those tenders locally. In construction, they have something called categorization. This is where companies are categorized based on their capabilities in such a way that big companies cannot tender for small tenders. So big companies cannot come and eat up all the small tenders. So this categorization in the works field has made it possible for kind of an equitable distribution of the market. So small companies can work, big companies can work, and the rate of poor execution is limited. They can tell you. So why don't we have something like that in the ICT sector?
A report by the ICT Chamber under the Private Sector Federation shows that between January 2016 and September 2024, a total of 10,906 tenders were issued in the ICT sector to 212 companies, with 2,622 contracts awarded to ICT companies worth over 2,729 billion Rwandan francs. The Rwanda Broadcasting Agency awarded the highest number of tenders, 572, followed by the Rwanda Correctional Services with 488 and the Rwanda Revenue Authority with 361 tenders. Enra Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Now, on Monday, during a commemoration ceremony dedicated to women and children at the district level in Nyaruguru, special remembrance was given to over 100 women and children who were burned alive in a house in Buye located in Goma sector. In her testimony, Jeanette Mukagasana recounted the horrific experience she went through when she was placed in the same house where more than 100 women and children were burned alive in Buye. She survived by chance and testified that the plan to burn them was orchestrated by the Interahamwe militia, who had devised and carried out the plan to exterminate the Tutsi. Minister Nhaukurijayo, Vice President of Ibukan, Nyaruguru district, appreciated the support provided to genocide survivors in vulnerable conditions, especially in terms of their welfare. He called on anyone with information about location of where bodies of genocide victims are still hidden to come forward so they can be buried with dignity. The Member of Parliament, Jean d'Arc de Bonheur, stated that it was bad politicians who planned and executed the genocide against the Tutsi, urging the population to strengthen unity and to confront genocide denial and ideology. As part of the 31st commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi, flowers were laid at the memorial site that was established to honor the 104 innocent women and children who were burned at that location. Genocide survivors in Goma sector in Nyaruguru district noted that the area's proximity to the border gave many Tutsi fleeing from other parts of the country hope that they could find refuge there, but tragically many were killed instead.
wa sosiyete turakwibutsa ko buri sosiyete isabwa n'itegeko kubika ibitabo bya sosiyete ndetse no gushyikiriza RDB amakuru abikubiyemo. Ibyo bitabo birimo igitabo cy'abanyamigabane, icy'abagenewe inyungu ku migabane, inyandiko y'amakuru ya sosiyete, ibaruramari ngarukamwaka n'izindi. Gutanga amakuru y'ugenewe inyungu ku migabane wanyura kuri bo.rdb.rw, naho gutanga izindi nyandiko ukanyura kuri org.rdb.rw.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo wagira umukamo mwinshi utunze inka imwe, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi hari abamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njya muri kaminuza hari abanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko nashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byaragiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye zibimamo. Bigereho.
A You're still watching RTV News in English. Now to international scene. In Nigeria, around 200,000 people have been displaced following a terrorist attack that struck Borno State in the northern part of the country over the past weekend. The Borno State authorities have now called on the national government to do everything possible to protect civilians from the Boko Haram insurgent group, which has long plagued the region. The United Nations reports that over the past 16 years, Boko Haram attacks have killed tens of thousands of people in northern Nigeria, while more than 2 million others have been displaced from their homes. To the United States, the President Donald Trump has issued a White House invitation to Pope Leo XIV, the Chicago-born pontiff, who, as Cardinal Robert Prevost previously criticized Trump's administration. The invitation came via a letter from the U.S. President and the First Lady, Melania Trump, that was delivered to the Pope by the U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, during a meeting at the Vatican on Monday morning. Now this brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but before we say goodbye, a sneak peek of our edition. President Paul Kagame highlighted that Africa's future, particularly matters of peace and security, cannot be outsourced, pointing out that it has been far too long treated as a burden to be managed by others. The second group of over 700 Rwandans who had been held hostage by the FDLR has returned to Rwanda. On the international scene, in Nigeria, around 200,000 people have been displaced following a terrorist attack that struck Borno State in the northern eastern part of the country over the past weekend. Now that concludes today's bulletin. Thank you so much for joining us here on Rwanda Television for the English News Bulletin. Until next time, stay safe and have a great and productive week ahead.
byiza kuri mwe mwese mutwurikiye tubaha ikaze ku makuru itangiye mutegurirwa na Meteo Rwanda.